Today is Sunday, October 5th, and this is another update on my progress of beating the S&P 500 along with Bill Ackman's Pershing holdings. I do make these updates every Sunday, so if you want to follow along, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it. Since my last update, Pershing saw a decline of 0.46%, my portfolio saw an increase of 1.47%, and the S&P 500 had an increase of 1.09%, which brings us year to date. Pershing is at a gain of 28.21%, my portfolio is at a gain of 27.98%, and the S&P 500 is at a gain of 14.44. If we take a look at the earnings calendar for this week, out of the 107 companies I follow, none of them are reporting. We're in between quarters right now, so I expect it to be this way at least for the next few weeks before some start trickling in. If we take a look at the economic events calendar for this week, because of the federal government shutdown, we aren't expected to get any. So between the lack of earnings being reported and no economic events on the calendar, it should be a pretty quiet week. These are going to be all 14 of my current positions. Right now, Nvidia, Microsoft, Palantir, Meta, and Mind Medicine make on my top 5, and those make up 43.82% of my portfolio. My two biggest gainers on the week was definitely Mind Medicine with a 17.71% gain, which was enough to move itself into my top 5. And next was Shopify with a 14.89% gain and currently sits in the number 6 position. Sprouts Farmers Market didn't have a terrible week, but it did fall over 3%, causing my loss to go to 28.27%. It is my smallest position, so there is a possibility at some point I decide to dollar cost average into it some more. Right now, I do have 91.23% of my portfolio invested, which leaves me with 8.77 sitting in cash. Right now, I don't have any plans to make any changes to my portfolio, at least for the next week. I feel pretty good about where it's at right now. If we take a look at the SPY chart, you'll see that it did pretty well last week. Like I mentioned earlier, it did have a gain of 1.09%. And if we add in the 5 and the 15-day moving average, you'll see that it's still showing quite a bit of strength. Right now, the SPY price is still above the 5-day, and both of those are quite a bit above the 15. And it is still quite a bit of ways from the longer-term green trend line. So clearly, even with a federal government shutdown, the markets don't seem to care all that much. I believe one of the reasons causing it to move higher is still the likelihood of 2 additional rate cuts at the final 2 meetings this year. So with all that, I do think that there's a higher percentage that markets finish this week higher than where they started. And as long as the SPY price doesn't cross below the 5-day moving average this week, we should be looking pretty good. That's going to do it for today. I do make these updates every Sunday, so if you want to follow along, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you next Sunday.